Hi, I'm Nabe. Now I'm at Maizuru Repatriation Memorial Museum in my hometown. This museum was listed as a memory of the world by UNESCO in 2015. I bought a ticket at the entrance. It's 400 yen per person. Repatriation means the return of people from overseas to Japan after the end of World War II. This museum has many exhibits, especially related to the internment in Siberia. There is a big map of Siberia on the floor. Do you know where Siberia is? Siberia is the eastern part of Russia. The red dot in Japan is Maizuru City. Maizuru accepted many repatriation ships from Siberia because it was one of the few repatriation ports on the Sea of Japan coast. This is red paper which was sent to conscript into the army. Those who received this paper had to join the army within a week. Actually, it was a bright red as the name suggests, but this one is faded. These are posters for recruiting soldiers and settlers. Of course, there was no SNS at that time, so they recruited through paper media like this. This book describes the mindset of a soldier heading to the battlefield. It says that fighting to the end of life is a virtue. This idea is completely wrong, but they couldn't say no to this idea at that time in Japan. This is a soldier's uniform heading to the battlefield. This doll looks a little sad. Internees didn't have enough paper and pens at the camp, so they wrote their diaries on the bark of the trees. These diaries miraculously escaped confiscation and returned to Japan. These works are registered as memory of the world. These are pots and pans used in Siberia, which were brought by repatriates. Maizuru port accepted 660,000 repatriates, the third largest number in the country. Especially, most of the repatriates from Siberia returned to Maizuru port. This is a repatriate's backpack. Most of the contents of the backpack had been stolen by the time they reached the port. These are letters from internees to their families in Japan. Writing about the harsh conditions and hard labor there was banned by Soviet military. This is a meal scene at the camp. The man standing on the far right is a Soviet soldier to monitor. The food given to them was so small that they divided it carefully to avoid fighting. The doll's expression of despair conveys the harsh conditions there. The physically weak people stayed in the relatively warmer upper areas like this. What did they eat in Siberia? They were given very little food, and they had to make their own spoons and forks. Breakfast was one rice bowl and soup. Lunch was one piece of bread, and dinner was one rice bowl and soup. This rice bowl is made from grains, not rice, so it doesn't seem to fill them up very much. These are musical instruments brought from Japan by internees. The beautiful sound of the instruments soothed their hearts even in harsh conditions. There was no entertainment in the camp, so they made wooden mahjong balls and enjoyed themselves secretly away from the guards. There is a movie about the internment in Siberia and repatriation. It is called Fragments of the Last Will in English. I recommend watching this movie if you have time, because it gives you a good understanding of the harsh conditions at the time and the misery of war. This is a replica of the same weight as a log internees carried. It's impossible to lift it with one hand while taking a video. It's so heavy that I can barely lift it with both hands, but I can't imagine carrying it around all day. This is a camp in Siberia. The camp is surrounded by a high fence and covered with snow in winter. Siberian winter is very long and harsh. Internees' sleeping rooms were very small, with wooden beds crowded together. This is the experience room for the internment in Siberia. The inside of the room was dim. I can sense the despair of that time. There was only one small stove in this cold place. I guess he's sick, and the other man appears to be nursing him. Siberia is known as one of the coldest regions in the world, with long periods of snow in the winter. Outside the window, there are people working despite the blizzard. Is that person at the back a Soviet soldier? He looks like he has a gun. This man is reading a letter from his family in Japan. At a camp in Siberia, there was a dog named Kuro who was loved by internees. When the last repatriation ship was leaving, he ran after it on the ice floes. So repatriates decided to take him back to Japan. This is a true story that sounds like fiction. That was featured in the movie I mentioned earlier. This is Maizuru Bay and repatriation port at that time. The buildings near the port handled procedures for repatriates to return home and issued return train tickets. Is this the scene where the repatriates arrived? There are crowds around the pier. The residents of Maizuru at that time gave a warm welcome to the repatriates. There are many kind people in Maizuru, both now and in the past. These are repatriation ship models. Many of the passenger ships were used in the war, and most of them were sunk, so cargo ships were used as repatriation ships. The ship was as hot as a sauna in the summer and freezing cold in the winter. In such harsh conditions, it was not uncommon for infectious disease to spread. At that time, there were many mothers around the pier, waiting for their sons to return home. There are also famous songs and movies that feature such women. It is written that they were moved to tears by the beauty of Japan when they returned after 6 years. When I returned to Japan after 6 months in Africa, I was also impressed by the beauty of Japan. Currently, Maizuru City has active exchanges with Uzbekistan, one of the former Soviet republics. Maizuru City also has a friendship city agreement with Nahotoka in Siberia. This museum is also used by local schools for peace studies. I also came here when I was in elementary school, but at the time I didn't really understand what this museum was for. But now I understand what a valuable experience it was. There is a snack corner at the entrance. What is your favorite Japanese snack? There is also a souvenir section and a cafe where you can buy Maizuru specialties such as curry and naval goods. Finally, I came to the Repatriation Pier, which is close to the museum. The pier that was used at the time no longer exists, so this has been restored based on how it was at the time. Some people rejoice at their long-awaited reunion, while others continue to wait for family members who are not even sure if they are still alive. It makes me emotional to imagine the various dramas that took place here. The only thing I can say is that war only produces tragedy. The wars going on around the world should be stopped immediately. If you have the opportunity, please visit this place and learn about the misery of war. This video was a serious topic, but thank you for watching until the end. I'll say goodbye with Maizuru Bay. See you in the next video. Bye.